Happy Friday. Happy New Year. Welcome to the Vault. This is a three-subject matter pertaining to Quentin Simon. There's an update. And also the case against Bryan Kohberger. An affidavit has been released in Moscow, Idaho, pertaining to evidentiary material, eyewitness accounts. We will dissect that said information during this live stream. Please check out my other videos uploaded yesterday pertaining to the subject matter at hand, pertaining to the roommate DM that was spared. Why didn't that certain person call 911? We can address that also during this live stream. But what is also interesting about the affidavit, besides a roommate being spared, why didn't that roommate call 911? Why did Bryan Kohberger spare the roommate if indeed he saw her? Did he see her standing in the doorway? Why did he return to the crime scene hours later at 9:30 a.m.? And the next update is pertaining to Quentin Simon. His remains are still with the FBI. Thank you for joining me. You are now listening to The Vault. I will drop the link after my commentary and audio play. ABC News has a source pertaining to a football player who had cardiac arrest on the field. And this is the latest update from 3 hours ago. Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin is now breathing on his own. Amen. In talking to family and doctors after collapsing from cardiac arrest during a game against the Cincinnati Bengals, the team says he was also able to FaceTime with the Buffalo Bills players and team saying, "Love you, boys." This is posted to my community board if you need verification. ABC News is the source. So Mr. Hamlin is alive, speaking to family. Prayers for him. I do not know if he will able to play football again or what his status will be down the road pertaining to his health and diagnosis and recommendations from his doctors, surgeons. But we're going to pray for his safe journey. And hopefully, if it's God's will, he will be able to go back to playing sports. I don't know if he would even want to return after this incident, but we will see. But still, prayers for Mr. Hamlin. Amen. Let's now talk about Quentin Simon. Thank you for joining me. WSAV3 News is the source. All information relayed during this live stream is posted to my community board. And please take the said polls pertaining to Bryan Kohberger and the witness left behind. We're going to chop all that information up. And I also wanted to put in the title, I didn't have enough room. Do you believe he was drug-induced when he went to 1122 King Road? But due to the fact that it was a short window span of the killings for about 20 minutes, that he was in that house and unalived these four individuals, could it be that he was under the influence of narcotics? We will chop all that up after the Quentin Simon update. Thank you for joining me. WSAV3 is the source.
Oh, thank you, Alyssa. All right, continuing coverage now, we have an update on the Quentin Simon case. News 3 has learned the FBI still has custody of the child's remains. Investigators say the remains are still undergoing testing in a crime lab. The child's body was found in a landfill in West Chatham County on November 18th. This after police and FBI agents searched for him for weeks. Quentin's mother, Leilani Simon, has been arrested and charged with murder. She initially told investigators that the boy was missing. Leilani remains in the Chatham County Jail without bond.
All right, everybody, that's the said update pertaining to Quentin Simon. His remains are still being tested at the FBI lab. What exactly are they looking for? What are they trying to conclude pertaining to the remains? Thank you for joining me. A lot of information. He said November 18th. Interesting day when I look back at the history of what I'm learning with this BK case. I'll just call him BK because I don't want to keep pronouncing his name. November 18th. That's when he registered his car in Washington State. And the same day, remains recovered out of a Savannah landfill pertaining to Quentin Simon. Thank you all so much. Let's go on to the next commentary. Please go to my community board to take the said polls pertaining to this case of the 4 kids. I asked several questions. Is BK's family still supporting him? 26 votes. You all got 100% yes. Are you shocked about the contents of the affidavit? 59% said yes, no, 41%. Does BK regret or have remorse for murdering the students? 100% said no. Do you think BK regrets leaving behind a witness? Yes, 94%, no, 4%. Do you think DM texted roommates after BK left the house? 14% said yes, 43% said no, and 43% said not sure. Do you think DM left the bedroom to check on roommates but lied about it to police, saying she and BF found them near 12 p.m.? Yes, 22%, no, 56%, 22% says unsure. So it's a tie between yes and unsure at 22%, but half of you believe that she did not lie about seeing those kids before noon. Should DM have gone to check on the roommates? 82% said yes, 18% said no. Should DM have called 911 after seeing Bryan Kohberger in the home? 100% said yes. Amen. Does DM regret not calling 911? 90% says yes, 10% said no. Was Bryan Kohberger under the influence of drugs on the morning of the murders? 28% said yes, 34% said no, 38% said not sure. Why did Bryan Kohberger spare DM? Option number 1, didn't see her in the doorway, 78%. Option number 2, decided to spare her, 13%. Drugged up, 9%. So 78% of you believe he didn't even see her standing there. So you have to ask yourself, if he didn't see her standing there, why not? Why not? Why did Bryan Kohberger return to the crime scene? I let that stay open for you to comment yourself. One said to relive his crime. RRR said probably to see what was happening. Indeed. Once again, prayers for Damar Hamlin. Quentin Simon remains still with the FBI for testing. Let's now get into the content pertaining to the arrest of Bryan Kohberger, the eyewitness left behind, why she didn't call 911, why was she spared, and also was the suspect under the influence of narcotics when he went to the crime scene to unalive the victims. Welcome to the vault. Bringing you some updates from Twitter. Brian Enton's Twitter page says, the house where the murders happened at 1122 King Road in Moscow will remain a crime scene until at least February 1st, according to this order from the judge. Court filings show the defense asked for the scene to be preserved, and judge agreed. So the defense is the reasoning for, I believe, the halting of the crime scene and this order till February 1st for it to stay active. So obviously she wants to go in and evaluate the scene, which is left of nothing, I'm sure, because they have removed the kids' items out of the house. They also called in a cleanup crew. I don't know how much of cleaning that they got started, but obviously she wants to see the layout of the house, probably visualize how the perpetrator got in, left. She needs a visual. And this was said by many experts a week ago that possibly the defense spoke to the judge about preserving what's left of the crime scene so he or she could go in and assess the situation. Thank you so much for joining me. The Gonzalez's have decided to speak publicly pertaining to the arrest of this perpetrator, and I'm going to play that content pertaining to the Gonzalez's commentary. They have decided to forgive the police department, very interesting, and forgive the perpetrator. Stay woke, everybody. We're also going to bring you content pertaining to the cell phone being in the area of the crime scene, which is the title of this video. Why did he return to the crime scene at 9:30 a.m.? Thank you for joining me. First video I'm going to play is pertaining to the Gonzalez's message to Idaho police. All is forgiven. News Nation is the source. If you need verification, All information is in the YouTube queue and my community page if you need verification for the source.
Suspect within 2 weeks of the crimes being committed, and yet for 4 more weeks, he was in Moscow, he was in Pullman, he was crossing the country. And I wanted to get your thoughts just on the notion that there were so many people, classmates, neighbors, both in Washington and in Pennsylvania, who may have been at risk because they were so close to him before he was actually brought in cuffs. What were your thoughts about that?
I think we all kind of shared that as a community, that there was a risk of somebody being out there. And I took that very personal, because I had so much weight on top of me, and I knew all these other victims that were associated with my family were being hurt with just overall media and coverage. But these guys, there's no perfect way to do this. And these officers they just did an amazing job. And I was hard on them, and I'll come out and say that I owe them all the gratitude in the world, and I've always supported the police. But it's the school of thought that I come from. Like, everybody can do their best, and they need to come to the every day trying to be the best person that they can possibly be. So I won't back off of that, but these guys did an amazing job. They need more credit than they had. I mean, people think Idaho is so old-fashioned and out back, but these guys, they hit a home run, man. That affidavit is impressive, and I'm glad to be wrong. I wanted to be wrong, and I told them to their face. I looked them in their eyes and said, prove me wrong, and all is forgiven. And here we are, and all is forgiven. And I'll say that on camera, and I'll tell everybody, I was concerned, but I was wrong. They were right, and I'm okay with that. I have my person now. We have our person of interest, our defendant, and we will go after him, and he better be ready.
Thank you for watching.
News Nation is the source if you need verification. So Mr. Gonzalez and his wife are speaking to this news broadcast. He has forgiven the police department. He now says they did a good job. He's owning his part in what he said. But my thing is, when you have the family not backing the police or making derogatory statements about the police's demeanor, it doesn't help. And that aids the naysayers, because we live in a world where we have many followers. There are a lot of people who cannot think for themselves. They can't navigate for themselves. Thank you very much, sweetheart. So when you're speaking negative to the public about an investigation pertaining to your child or loved one, you have people who can't think for themselves. So they'll ride on the ride of what you're saying. But this is the point. The police department, Moscow, did prove them wrong. They had the state police involved day one. Not 5 days, not 8 days. 4 o'clock, state police was on the scene, processing the scene of the kids and the house, the property. FBI was called in. So they did do due diligence. The only problem was the statements they were releasing, the coroner speaking too soon, then they're taking it back, backtracking, a rift with the state's attorney or whoever it is, district attorney. All that was a problem. That's why you can't speak initially, because it causes problems. And when you have people who are messy and like to keep up drama, that sit behind computers and cell phones, you have to be very careful what you say and don't say. Because in this situation, it really didn't matter what the police department did and didn't do. Somebody was going to have a problem. And in the end, he was the main one doing the most complaining and talking vocally against the police department. But he has apologized. And I'm glad he apologized, because the worst part is over. A suspect has been identified. DNA has linked him to the crime scene, the sheath that holds the knife. It's going to be very hard for him, Mr. BK, to explain why that sheath was lying against a decedent. A decedent that, one, he didn't know. A knife was used to unalive the victims and nowhere to be found. It's going to be very hard evidence to talk your way out of. Very hard to talk your way out of. Next content is pertaining to the Gonzalez's again. And it says here, we will forgive him, parents of Idaho victim. News Nation is the source of this information. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining me. Happy New Year and have a safe weekend.
To get a sense from you about justice, what is it? What does it look like for you? I mean, you're just starting this process.
For me, it's going to look a lot like an end. I mean, justice doesn't have a room where you can read books and you can go to school and you can have, 3 meals and you can have your vegan diet. To me, that's not justice.
Exactly. Thank you.
Justice is when you leave the planet and the whole world is able to rejoice and be glad that you are not there. That's justice, and we will forgive him. We will. We're not going to have that heavy weight on us. We will forgive this individual, and we will. But he has to pay for what he's done, and it's not just our daughter; it's all the victims. He needs to pay justice to.
Great.
And,
I'm glad he said that. Amen.
That's all I can say about it.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. Go to News Nation.
So basically, he's saying, I guess they believe in death penalty, because he's talking about him being unalive, not on the earth. So that's only going to come if he, one, kills himself, dies suddenly, put to death, or dying in a penitentiary. I do believe that's what they're saying. Death would be the justice for Kohberger. And I'm also glad he spoke that it's also about the other victims as well, because more than one person was unalived in that house by BK. We'll play you more content. I will drop the link here shortly. Feel free to come up and give your opinion pertaining to the information in the affidavit. Why did Bryan return to the crime scene at 9:30? Why did he leave one roommate alive if indeed her account is that she saw the perpetrator walk past her? Did he see her or not? Did he see her or not? And was he also drug-induced? Because this crime took place about 20 minutes or less. So I would assume he was frenzied, going from room to room, killing people. Did he walk all the way through the house? Did he know that there was a bottom level? Why did he not try to open one of those doors? Were all the doors open? Because when you read the affidavit, it appears that the doors were open when they went to the crime scene, from my understanding. But the person who's giving their account, this is their first time going to the scene. So I'd like to know, the first person who was on the scene, did they have to open a bedroom door? Were the bedroom doors locked by a keypad? Or the killer turned a knob and locked them? Because one person on one of the news networks speaking, ex-agent or somebody, had said Maddie's door was closed. So that was never verified from the police. So I'd like to know, were the kids' doors open when the perpetrator entered their bedrooms? And one would have to say that they had to have been open because he was able to kill them. Or did he jimmy the doors or bust them open? And think about, if he bust them open, that means somebody in the house should have heard a door being breached. See, there's so many questions you can ask, and I didn't see any of that information in the initial first 2 pages, 3 pages pertaining to the person going on the scene to assess the crime scene inside of the house. Very interesting information. Idaho suspect's cell phone had been near the victim's home. News Nation is the source. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining me. Please check out my previous videos. They're a bit winded, but they are worth your time. We go very deep into the mind of Kohberger and his motivation. And did he travel to Washington State deliberately to kill? Some of you may not have thought about that. But could it be that he was mimicking Theodore Bundy, BTK? he wanted to work in the Pacific Northwest because this is the area where many serial killers have hunted their prey. And I am starting to wonder if indeed he applied to this school deliberately. And what else will be fascinating and interesting to know is if he had wind of these girls' social media pages before moving to Washington State. Because I've got a feeling when he touched down in August, he was looking for prey when he caught that ticket in Latah County. So you have to ask yourself, what was he doing on the day he got the seatbelt infraction? Was he scouring for victims on that day? Thank you for joining me. This is The Vault.
Linking back to Bryan Kohberger. Now, we learned that authorities believe that Dylan Mortensen, one of the roommates who survived, came face-to-face with the killer. DM said she heard who she thought was victim Kaylee Gonzalez say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." DM stated she opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from victim Xana Kernodle's room. DM then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." DM stated she opened her door for the third time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. The male walked past DM as she stood in a frozen stop phase. The male walked towards the back of the sliding glass door. DM locked herself in a room after seeing the male. DM did not state that she recognized the male. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. Now, that is stunning. And this is
very stunning
phase of this. This is as you can see, a recreation a bit of what the home looked like, because there's a lot more here. It relates to why and how the authorities are so convinced it's Kohberger. Now, before we go there, because that came up a little bit late there, let me bring in Jesse Weber here from the Law and Crime Network, attorney and host there. Let's start with that first point about the victim having seen the actual killer, something we had no idea about up to this point, but still this interesting question of she didn't call the police, right?
Two interesting questions. Why is she alive? Why did he spare her life? And two, so I can understand that she was frozen. Imagine walking out and you seeing somebody dressed in black. You freak out. You go back into your room. But there's about 5-6 hours where she doesn't make the call. And we don't know what that 911 phone call is. We don't know the contents of it. We don't even know if she called or the other roommate called. But it raises a question is what was happening in that period of time? And so I think that's one of the outstanding questions. And you're seeing already online people coming up with conspiracy theories about that. We knew that was going to happen. But this is a piece of information. We didn't even know if they were awake at the time. So the idea that she eyewitnessed somebody, saw the bushy eyebrows, and then police found Kohberger a few weeks later, and that identification that she gave matched to him.
Height, build,
bushy eyebrows. And again, it's not like she made a positive identification. Hey, does anybody in this lineup look like somebody? Her description matched somebody that they just independently found. Yeah. I think that's what's huge about it.
All right, let's move on to the car. Because I want to talk about that. They identified a vehicle right in front of and around the house between 3:29 and 4:20 a.m. Precisely when Dylan heard the commotion and saw the man. We learned from the affidavit, these sightings show suspect vehicle 1 is what they refer to it as, makes an initial 3 passes by the residence where the murders occurred. They say upon review of the video, there are only a few cars that enter and exit this area during this time frame. Suspect vehicle 1 can be seen entering the area a 4th time, 4 times, at approximately 4:04 a.m. Suspect vehicle 1 is next seen departing the area of the King Road residence at approximately 4:20 a.m. at a high rate of speed. So at this point in the investigation, Jesse Weber, law enforcement identifies the vehicle as a white Hyundai Elantra, initially 2011 to 2013. They then adjust it to 2011 and 2016. I think that'll be something defense attorneys will hit on. Using that, they eventually link a car that fits the description back to the area where Bryan Kohberger lived and was both before and after the murders, and where a car fitting the description was seen leaving and returning the morning of the murders.
That's exactly right. So they have this car on tape going to all the key locations at all the wrong times for him. Later on, they actually have surveillance video of him leaving that very car. It's registered to him.
That's to me the knockout, right?
It is, but the most important thing is what you just said, the car going back and forth. Do you know what that is? That's deliberation. Remember,
Exactly.
the 4 counts
Very
of
true.
first-degree murder, premeditation, planning. Every time he circled around, allegedly circled around and then stopped there, that's him deliberating on what he's doing. So that's the planning, that's the premeditation. That's why he's charged with what he's charged with, and I think that's an important point as well.
Thank you for watching. Go to News Nation.
All right, it's Dan Abrams, Law and Crime Network host. Deliberation, riding around. You're planning to do something nefarious. BK, on the morning of the 13th of November. They could ping his phone also back at the crime scene. Did he leave his phone at the house or turned it off? Because naturally a person will want to have their phone with them in case something happens. They get a tire blown. Battery won't start. Imagine that had he went back to his car and the battery didn't start. My, oh my, wouldn't that have been something? Hit the link if you want to give your opinion pertaining to the evidence in the affidavit released yesterday. Why did BK return to the crime scene at 9:30 a.m. and why did he spare a roommate? And also, Quentin Simon's remains are still in the custody of the FBI. Hit the link. Make this live count. 120 viewing in the room. I don't have any confusion, Paula. You might be confused. I'm not confused about anything. Everybody's entitled to his or her opinion of what happened in that house. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but I have enough sense to know I'm not like this girl. I have a good instinct. I have the gift of discernment. I thank the Lord for blessing me with it. There's a reason for her opening the door 3 times. That shows she was up during the hours of the murder. Number 1. Number 2, when she saw the alleged person walk by her the 3rd time opening the door, survival mode should have set in. Gut instinct should have set in. Something is not right. I've never seen this person before. We're not having a party or a get together. There's no music playing. The story is off. And naturally it was off to us in the beginning because we didn't have any information pertaining to what went on in the house. And we're really never going to know what happened in that house because the people that got hurt are not alive to tell the story. So all we have is somebody who allegedly stayed in the house and woke up at some point and found these kids. So we don't have any proof of who saw what and didn't see what in the house. And it will be very jacked up if we find out she knew that those kids were dead in their rooms. She went and peeped at some point out of curiosity, saw that they were dead, and realized not to call because she'd have to explain what she's doing up in the middle of the night, roaming around looking in people's rooms. Even though she lived in the house with these people, that would be the first question the police would ask. Well, why were you up going to their room that time of night? You have to use discernment at some point in life. And this is a lesson learned that if you get a gut instinct that something is not right with somebody roaming in your house, you need to try to inquire. That's why I made the comment in my last video that this was a bad setup of people living in a house with various people coming in and out. It was a recipe for disaster. Well, Annie, we have information from the affidavit. She was living on the 2nd floor, not the 1st. Oh, you're talking about, Dylan's room is directly under Maddie's. Okay, sorry about that. I'm thinking about something else. Well, that's the whole point. Ethan is a big person. And there is no way I'm going to believe he and Bryan were not making noise fighting in the room. There's no way. You're on the same floor as two people dying. So that changed the dynamic of somebody being downstairs and sleep and didn't hear anything upstairs and the third floor. You're now on the floor. So now you got to explain to a logical person that you were up during the killings. Because he wasn't even there but 20 minutes at least. Tops, 20 minutes. Let's say under 25 for the record. So if you're able to get up, back and forth, opening doors, then that shows you're up, unless you're a sleepwalker. The third time you open the door, allegedly, you see the suspect walking by. Give a description of bushy eyebrows, which is then given to the police. But the part of the affidavit that is strange is saying you was frozen in shock. So why would you be shocked when you all have people in your house often? You're in shock possibly because your instincts kicked in from opening the door the other two times and hearing the noise and the crying. So your better half said, this don't look good. This guy walking by. And if he was coming from the direction of Xana's room, you were possibly putting two and two together. He's done something to them in that room. And you shut your door and went about your merry way. Chastity says, as a mother, I would be so angry. The roommates heard something, knew something, and did nothing. There was two people, not just one, left alive. How could one of the two call 911? Well, we don't know what the Bethany girl was doing. She's on the bottom floor now. That's been verified. The only one living on the bottom. When you read the affidavit, you will hear everybody was living on different floors. Bethany on the first, Dylan on the second, Kaylee and Maddie on the third. So as everyone is saying, this is all new information to us. Paula W., this is my damn channel. I will talk how I see fit. And I can help you get on your way. How about that? You're like everybody else. So long as somebody doesn't agree with your commentary, agree with your opinion, I don't have to agree with your opinion. Just like you don't have to agree with mine. You want me to talk like a schoolgirl about 4 people dying? Because last I checked, this isn't kindergarten. If you're looking for somebody to talk nice about 4 people being bludgeoned to death and 2 people surviving and hearing the crime, you're definitely at the wrong playhouse. I'm not a school teacher and I'm not a substitute teacher. I'm not here to teach you anything. How about that? I don't know anybody that's going to sit up here and talk about people being killed in a docile manner. Oh, well, on the 13th, 4 people were unalived by a weapon. And we now find out that somebody was up and saw the killer walk by them. And they shut their door and didn't call 911. So what were they doing in those hours? Did they go to sleep or paint their toenails? Is that better for you? See, it's people like you that's part of the problem. You want somebody to coddle you and coax you in a serious situation. There's 4 dead kids here. They're not coming back. Yes, it's real life. You now hear that there was a living witness on the same damn floor as 2 kids being killed. Who the hell is going to sit up and talk about it as if we're talking about, oh, we're going to the ice cream shop. Would you like vanilla and sprinkles on top of your ice cream cone? I think I'll have the chocolate mint. Sound ridiculous. Maybe you should stick to watching cartoons instead of true crime. Because you obviously live in a fairy tale world. Why did he go back 9:30? This is questionable at this point. You hear in this News Nation broadcast, phone data pings him at the crime scene. Thank you for joining me, sweetheart. Yeah, you go ahead and get that rocky road. These are valuable questions. The cat is out of the bag now. You can't ignore a human being standing in a doorway and the killer walking by. The alleged killer, let's say, whose DNA is at the scene. That's not alleged. But nonetheless, there's something off here. Why would this person not call 911? Why did he spare this person? Why did he go back at 9:30? Yes, Annie. See, Annie, that's my whole point. People just like to talk, and they don't even think before they speak. That is the stupidest thing I ever heard. You're in your own room, but yet you don't have a phone. It's bullshit. It's bullshit, and you know it's bullshit. And to even say that means something is mentally wrong with you. It's just like I was telling Brittany. We talked for hours before, an hour or so before I went live on my last live last night. We even talked this morning on the phone till about 7 a.m. after that last live, chopping up this story and this affidavit. It's something is off with this. And some of you don't want to own it. Those are the people who are blind by assumption, and you don't want to think ill of somebody. Well, let's be truthful. That's already done. You got somebody who you didn't even know from a pile of beans before November 13th, and the news broadcast went, 4 kids found dead in a house. All kind of rumors circulated. You finally make up a car, arrest, and yet you want to sugarcoat what's in the affidavit. No, you can't. You can't sugarcoat, because this is the version she gave to the police allegedly. And you've got to now ask yourself about the rumor that one of these girls found one of the kids lying out in a common room, common area. Who is that person that put that rumor out? Why were they speaking on behalf of these 2 girls? Because that rumor does not coincide with what's in the affidavit. So why are you speaking up for 2 people that you don't want anybody dousing with gasoline, making them out to be culprits in this crime? I get it. But whatever version that you put out on social media, whoever this mysterious person is, speaking on behalf of the 2 girls, 2 survivors, that's not what's in the affidavit. And I do believe that's redacted, because there is a part that's redacted in this affidavit. And you have to admit there's something off with somebody going in and out of a room 3 times, looking, but you're not yelling for anybody. Hey, what's going on? Hey, Kaylee, you up? Hey, Xana, you okay in there? Why not ask? Why not yell out, Xana, you okay? Because just imagine how she did go around that corner, she probably would have bumped into the killer. Because I got a feeling he killed the girls on the top floor, and he passed her standing in the doorway after killing Xana and Ethan. And you're not going to make me believe what? He saw a whole human and said to himself, I'm going to spare her because I got to get out of here. I think maybe he was drug induced. If indeed that girl said she stood in the doorway and he walked right by her. Why would he leave her alive? He had to been tunnel vision doped up to let one be spared. So then that goes to the question of, did he go through the whole house? Were the doors unlocked? Did he jimmy the doors open? Bedroom doors? Did he even go downstairs to see what was downstairs? Because when he went to Xana's room, he had to see the low-bearing wall to see that, oh, there's a downstairs. This is crazy to me. And I have every right to ask questions because police has released the information. And if you don't want anybody asking questions about what you put in the affidavit, then you don't release the affidavit. But in the end, when it goes to trial, all of this information is going to come out anyway. And people are really going to be questioning it, just like what they're doing right now. Many people are shocked by the affidavit because nobody even knew that the girl was even living on the second floor, number one. Number two, nobody knew that they were all up. Most of these kids were up from what she's saying. So hell yeah, we're going to ask questions. Why would you not ask questions? Yes, did she text her roommates? Will we find out she texted the girls out of curiosity about who BK was? Exactly. She would hear the noise clear, considering audio picked up a scream and a thud at the neighboring house. So if somebody can hear it on that audio once they play it, why you can't hear it and you're in the house? And some of you want to sit up and act like we shouldn't be questioning the information. Come again? You'd be a fool not to question it. And it's not to say she had anything to do with the murders, she or the other roommate, but her behavior is suspect. That's the problem. Because at some point, you had to have had instinct mode when he walked by you. Hey, something's not right here. And you knew something wasn't right. That's why you allegedly kept opening the door. So you were risking your life every time you opened the door. Why would he spare a victim, survivor? Why would he spare a woman? He doesn't like women, obviously, but he leaves one alive feet away from him. Was he under the influence of drugs when he walked by this survivor? Before, after killing these kids, was he under the influence? Went into a frenzied state, entering this house, going up to the top floor first, killing the two kids on top, made his way to Xana's room. So now you have to ask this question. 162 in the room. Please listen to what I'm about to say. Because I catch myself on subjects that just go through my head when I start realizing I've missed something. So I'm going to say this very delicately. If he went to the top floor, killed the girls first on the top floor, came down the stairs, DM, did he touch your doorknob and try to get into your room? Because make me understand how killer comes in and doesn't go to the door directly across from the glass slider bingo card. Come on with it, Queen. I ain't ready. Did y'all hear that? Your door is facing the glass slider on the second floor, which is believed to be the entry point of the killer. And the killer somehow goes to the top floor first, as if he knew to go up there first because his target prey was up there. He comes back down the stairs, bypassing your room again. He still don't touch the doorknob. Come on with it, Queen. They ain't ready for you. He then goes around the corner, which is now the living area, makes a left from the living room to go in Xana and Ethan's room. 9 times out of 10, they were awake, both scuffling with this thing. You knew he had to make noise because Ethan was 6 feet tall. That's a lot of man to be tussling with another 6-foot individual. You know things had to be knocked over and thuds against the wall and the floor of 2 human beings in a room. And if the people next door have it on audio a bit distorted, they said in the affidavit, how in the world you on the same floor, you don't hear these people rustling, tussling, hollering, and screaming for their life if their necks weren't slashed? I'm woke. Checkmate. Yes, a footprint was at her door. Naturally, he left the footprint because he killed 4 people, so he's going to have blood on his shoes. So the footprint outside of DM's door, which direction is the footprint going? Is it coming from down the stairs? Meaning the toe will be facing the living room. It has to be facing the living room because he has to pass her door to step into the living room to then go to Xana's room. Exactly. Jasmine, you're going to go to the first door you see if you do not know which room anyone's in. And if all of them are the target, it's not going to matter which room you go to first. Bingo card. So why is this killer coming in a second floor slider? Obviously that was unlocked. Goes upstairs, kills 2 people, comes back down the stairs, bypasses another door that he passed on his first way in. So he bypasses Dylan's door 2 fucking times, 3 times. I don't know, Salem. And you had to have had an instinct that something was wrong if you opened your door 3 times. And he was only there for about 20 minutes. So you were up at the time of the killings. Xana and Ethan were possibly up, unless Ethan fell asleep while Xana was eating her DoorDash. You heard the dog barking. You thought you heard Kaylee playing with the dog. So that means Kaylee was up. 9 times out of 10, Maddie possibly was up there in the same bed. Make Queen understand how you don't hear somebody being thrashed around. Maybe a lamp fell on the floor, tussling. Yes, the defense is going to have a field day. Thank you, William. So don't come for the Queen about my tone. I keep it real. And the same questions I'm asking is what the defense attorney is going to fucking ask. It's the same thing 12 members of a jury is going to ask. You think you're going to get 12 people in a box and they're not going to be asking this chick, why didn't you call 911 on the 3rd round when you saw this guy walk by you? Why did he spare you? Hell, did you even hold a conversation with him? Why didn't you go run and lock the slider door? Could the slider door be locked? If it couldn't be locked, why are you all living in a house but you can't lock the fucking doors? You have to own your part in the story. And nobody deserves to be unalived by a perpetrator. Let me make that clear. But you have to own your part. That's just like this house I'm in. I can't get mad if I find out somebody broke in here and I knew I had a window that wouldn't lock, which that had happened recently. I had to make sure to get the damn thing fixed. Because you can't be in a house and windows don't lock. You can't live in a house where the doors don't lock properly because you're asking for somebody to make way in your house. And this is disturbing information to now know somebody was actually living on the 2nd floor. And people argue back and forth for 7 weeks about this fucking house. And now you find out, oh, there wasn't but one living on the ground level. Now the surviving roommates on the 2nd on the same damn floor with the altercation. And some of you want to sit up here and act like nobody's supposed to ask questions pertaining to 4 dead kids. Well, really, that wouldn't be his job, Annie, to fix the slider. That would be the management's job to fix the sliding door because that's a part of the property. I ask all questions during my live streams pertaining to any information that's been brought forward. That's my God-given right to ask questions. And I don't have to like the answers either. You like what you like, I like what I like. And there's something off with this story, whether you like it or not. Whether she or anybody else is involved or not. It's principle. The shit don't add up. And I kept my tone very quiet for 7 weeks. Well, I'm not now. I never accused anybody in this crime because I made a vow that I would not until there was an arrest. I kept my word, but I don't have to keep it now. I don't have to keep my word now. I did my part for 7 weeks, and I was probably the only YouTuber that didn't accuse anybody of the crime because I didn't want to do that to anybody that knew the kids. But I can talk all the shit I want to now because somebody has put themselves at the scene and awake. And what is going to be very disturbing is if we later find out she knew that those kids were dead in that house and played like calling 911 at noon. And I'm not saying she did this, but there's something very peculiar with this story. Now, could it be she's green and just said, well, I'm going to shut the door. I know something ain't right with that guy that just walked by, but I'm just not going to say nothing. I'll just wait till afternoon and then I'll get up and inquire about this guy. So let's pretend we're in make-believe land. She gets up, opens her door. What is the first thing she sees? There should be blood in front of her door. There should be blood to the left of the stair landing, which goes up to the kids' room on the 3rd floor. There should be a trail of blood walking through the kitchen to the slider. There should be blood to the right of her going into the living room that goes then into Xana's room. See, William, that's the part of the story that we don't know if it's the truth or not. That's somebody on social media's version speaking on behalf of them running out, passing out, one hysterical, people walking by and took their phone to dial 911. The police has never verified who actually called 911 and the circumstances. I'm not saying anybody that lived played a role in the murders of these children, but what I am saying is that at some point her instinct had to have kicked in after seeing Bryan walk by her and exit out of the slider door if that actually happened that way. That's what I'm saying. Well, William, I don't know. I can't say that's a fact because police is not verifying anything. All I'm saying is that's not in the affidavit about the phone situation. That's somebody's version close to the survivors that they ran out of the house and called 911. They said they called 911 first and then ran out of the house and passed out outside. But my thing is, you don't know if that's truth or not because the police have not verified the time of the 911 call, who made the 911 call, so on and so forth. And I'm not putting my stamp on nothing now that I know somebody was alive on the 2nd floor. Yeah, stuff is redacted in the affidavit. So common sense would tell you they've redacted the part where she gets up and opens the door that morning and goes from there. That's redacted for obvious reasons. What happened when she got up and when Bethany got up? Who got up first? Who knocked on whose door first? Obviously, the victim's doors were open, I would assume, at this point now, because when I read the affidavit, the person who's spinning the web in the affidavit never said they had to open the door. But naturally, the doors would have been open before he got there because he's the second person coming in and writing the scene. So whoever went there first, police officer, did you have to open a door to the victim's rooms? Were they open or closed? If they were closed, were they locked from the inside? Kaylee's dad said Dylan refuses to speak to them. Well, that's the question I asked inside of the videos yesterday. Did they all talk to each other day one? All of the families and the 2 surviving roommates. Was there a cordial conversation about what happened in that house and what she saw and did not see? And by right, Chapin, Coronado, Gonzalez had every right to talk to the roommates the day of because their children died in there. And they all lived together, and they did have a right to talk to the roommates to say, well, you know, what time did you get home? How was my daughter acting? Was everybody getting along? Was there a fight? Was there a disagreement? You have every right to ask that because they live together. This is a very baffling story, and now it's even worse because you've released information of a witness and a witness being on the second floor and seeing the alleged perpetrator. And yes, the defense will have a field day with her. And if she thinks life's a bitch right now, it's going to be more of a bitch when she has to testify because that lady is going to tear her to shreds. And that's the spoken word. Well, Annie, I'm saying originally, because he's repeating something. The second person is spinning the story in the affidavit. That's not the original person, I think, that actually was on the scene when the kids were there. So the person spinning the affidavit, I don't believe that's the original person that found the kids because you'll hear him word things as if somebody was there before him. So there were officers on the scene before this person that wrote the affidavit got there. Because they're coming in at 4. So that means somebody was already there before 4. So that's who I'm speaking of. The original person on the scene, were the doors open or closed to the bedrooms? Number 2, what is truth about the rumor of the front door being open at 8 a.m.? Did the neighbor have that correct? Why did he go back to the house at 9:30 a.m.? Hit the link. Give me your opinion. Come on, you guys, I'm 1 hour in. Well, Toy, I'm not trying to chew her up. I'm just asking the questions per the affidavit because you got to remember, you only know what's been told to you. And I'm the one YouTuber that never made up any stories or lies about anybody in the storyline. I never talked bad about the victims. I never talked bad about the people at the grub bus. I never accused anybody of killing the kids because I said I don't know the kids and it's too many moving parts. The only person I had anything negative to say about was Mr. Gonzalez talking too much. It's the only person I had anything to say about. But now that you're putting these people here as a witness, I have a problem with that. You're welcome. Yes, please go to my community board and take the virtual tour of the house. When you see the house, you will understand my commentary. Okay. Well, Zarp, he knew it was going to be daylight to go over there anyway. I think he went back to relive what he had done and to see if police was on the scene, which shows how stupid he is. You just left there. Your Car is seen on video surveillance, different places in the city. You're stupid enough to go back to the scene and take your phone. Makes no sense. Well, if he was looking for the cover of the knife, why didn't he go in the house? Because that was there at the scene lying next to Miss Mogan's body. And in the affidavit, you hear the person saying, I looked later after first seeing her lying there and the two girls lying there. I looked later and realized the sheath was lying next to Miss Mogan's body to the right of her. So the sheath was there. So the point is, if he wanted to get the sheath, he could have walked back in the house and gotten it. And maybe he could have sat down and knocked on one of the roommates' door and asked if they wanted coffee. I said that. You're bold enough to go back to the scene of the crime. Hell, why don't you just move your shit in there? Just move on in. Pull a chair up, bar stool up, make you a cup of coffee, fry you some eggs. Because there are killers who've done that, and people who have burglarized people's homes, they ate out their house, ate out their refrigerator, made a sandwich. Yes, he wanted to relive it. Because if he wanted to get the sheath, he could have easily walked in the house with a hoodie on, a mask, and got the sheath and come back out. But it would have been too easy to pinpoint his chemical makeup body because the neighbors had a camera. It definitely would have been detrimental when it was time to go to court because it would show him going in the house and coming back out. But it shows you how thirsty he was for reliving this nightmare. He went back and his phone was on. That's why I asked the question, Mississippi. Were the lights on in the house when he entered? Kitchen, stairway, Xana's room, living room, Maddie's room. Because I got a feeling that most of the people in the house were up, except for possibly Bethany. Sure, why not? The suspects don't call 911 anyway, so why not go back? This is nuts. Yes, it is nuts. So you can't tell somebody not to question the information because the defense attorney is going to question it. Foster, please stop. You do not know anything about this girl to say she has childhood trauma. Because if that's the case, you might as well give the killer a pass. He had childhood trauma too. I'm sure everybody in the house had some type of trauma. That's not a good enough excuse to not dial 911 if you think this guy has done something to somebody in the house. Well, she has a heavy load to carry because she did survive. And if she saw him, she would probably see him a lot in her sleep, in her dreams. And I don't wish that on anybody. And perhaps she has regrets for not calling 911. And as I said, that's a heavy burden to carry, knowing you survived. And you also got a glimpse of the killer. And the killer was free for a month. Since everybody thinks this is a laughing matter and a joke, the killer was free for a month. He could have easily tried to find her and the other survivor if he wanted to. Because we see he has a habit of driving around. And the fact that young people like to post so much to social media, how hard would it have been to find her 2 hours or so up the road? Exactly. Not wearing a ski mask. Why not? You're going to somebody's house to kill them, and you're going to wear a fucking COVID mask, knowing they can see your eyes and your bushy eyebrows and your hairline. So did he wear a baseball cap, skull cap, just a mask, COVID mask? Exactly. Why would you leave a witness? You registered your car 5 days after killing the kids, which means you had intentions of staying in Washington State. You intended to continue your courses. You were cocky and arrogant and thought you committed the perfect crime, but you did not. You left around a blueprint of evidence via CCTV footage. The neighbors had a Bell camera. Because a camera had to be working, because why am I going to have just audio and no picture? William, very good question. They don't release the sketch to the students. Exactly. Maybe she couldn't give a good sketch. I don't know. But that's a very good question. And the police was on this story 12 days after the fact, but we didn't know that. You will see all that in the affidavit. A bolo went around to law enforcement agencies before they gave the public the ID of the Elantra. So they were already driving around looking for the Elantra days before they released it to the public. Well, William, this is what she gave to the police then. This is not recent, from my understanding. Now, if it's not, then we have a problem. Because I thought about that today. When did she tell them exactly he had bushy eyebrows? But they said that's what helped lead to apprehending him. Her identification of the eyebrows versus them getting information pertaining to the car. Police going to the campus, riding around, finding a car, and I guess comparing her identification to the owner of the white Elantra at Washington State. It's a very diabolical case. And I'm very grateful that they found the perpetrator. I do believe they have the right person. I do believe in the DNA that has been matched. I don't believe there was any mistakes made by the lab. I do believe they got their guy. You just got to pray that 12 members of the jury will believe the evidence and the eyewitness testimony. Yes, let's talk about that, the vigil. There's a picture circulating around of a thin white male who could possibly be the perpetrator. One of the chat members sent me the pictures again this morning because I had mentioned it to them earlier, Brittany. And I told her, the more I look at the visual of that person, that does look like BK. The thin build, the hoodie jacket, the collared shirt. Most young people do not wear collared shirts. In that footage of the person standing in that gymnasium, he is far from the crowd, staring off, looking in the opposite direction, not facing the stage where the people are speaking. And he has on a collared shirt. When you look at the other photos released to the media, BK is wearing collared shirts. Stay woke. That is something you would wear as a professional. Rarely do you see college students, young, wearing college shirts with buttons. Exactly, he's not smart. Because if you don't know to not take your car to a crime scene, you should not be in the killing business. You never take your car to a crime scene. You don't exit and get in your car from the crime scene. Because we live in a world of digital cameras, doorbell cameras, lamp pole cameras, street light cameras, toll booth cameras, cameras on houses. So you're a fool to ride around a town of 26,000 and think nobody saw your car go into the city and leave out of the city. And small town people talk and they watch. So you keep riding your car up and down the street. Somebody saw that. Somebody noticed that. You park your car near a residential house. Somebody has looked out the window and wondered why your car is parked there and why there is nobody in the car. Stay woke. I will admit the person in that gymnasium photograph, whoever brought that forward, did a good job because it does favor him. And the one thing I told Brittany about the photograph is that the hair is lower. His hair was straighter then because he had probably more of a buzz cut. His hair has grown out since then. It's a month later, remember? Now his natural curl is showing in his mugshot. Queen pays attention to everything. I can't get past Dylan saying she heard Kaylee say something in the house. So BK enters bedroom with two people, goes to stab one and the other didn't scream, yell out. My question is why go back if DM's seen him? Very, very interesting. How do I feel about the video that was recorded by the individual describing what potentially happened? I kind of felt like the profile through the reflection could be BK. Yes. We know that he was on social media. We can use our deduction and assume, I'll say assume. We can assume he was chatting on chats and Facebook pages, giving his synopsis of what happened in that house. Are these high colleges grooming some kids to carry out these crimes? Well, my thing is, how is somebody grooming you to be a killer? Nobody told you to go and kill those kids. You had something wrong with you. Long before Moscow and Washington State and DeSales University, Kohberger has been angry for some time. He's a 28-year-old man. He did not wake up yesterday and became an angry person. He has been angry for possibly 10 or more years. And it grew and it grew and it grew. And although he perfected the craft of going to school to get an education, the anger was still growing inside of him while attending school. And I do believe he came here to this area, Washington State, Moscow, deliberately to perfect the craft of murder. So he thought. That is my assertion. Titanium, it does not matter. That's their craft. That's what they teach. That has nothing to do with your mindset. If you have a weak mindset, it wouldn't matter about you majoring in psychology. You could just watch serial killer movies. Read serial killer books. What's the difference? It's a choice. Calm down in the chat. It is what it is. Was he under the influence of narcotics? That's something I wasn't able to put in the title because I didn't have enough room. Because I believe 20 minutes in and out, perhaps the perpetrator was in a frenzied state and was rushing, trying to kill these kids and get out of there. Well, that's the thing about having a car. You're going to miss something. Common sense will tell you they sprayed luminol in the car. And you're going to have blood in places he never thought to clean. There's no way you'll get it all up. And then if you did clean it up, you're leaving smears when you clean. That is how people know that blood was in a room after spraying luminol. You're going to see the smears. You're going to see the droplets. He didn't get it all. He didn't get it all up. He didn't get it at all. Believe that. He may have thought he did. I don't think so. And you don't know what he took back to his apartment. You don't know if he kept any of the clothes, the shoes. Many killers will keep their shoes and just wipe them off or put them in a washing machine. Well, blood will seep down in the crevices of your shoe, on the soles, on the bottom of your soles. And you can wash them, but you still can't get the blood out because you can't get blood out. William, calm down. The point is, William, the chief holds the knife. That's extreme evidence. To me, that's more extreme than having a knife, because anybody with sense knows the chief holds the knife. And the chief is lying beside a dead person's body with your fingerprint on the button. How are you going to explain your fingerprint on the button of the sheath next to a dead person that you do not know? You don't have to have a motive. You don't even have to have a weapon. They're dead. They didn't die on their own. And the case that carries the knife is laying beside a dead person with a fingerprint matching the suspect. The only thing you don't have is a picture of him killing the kids. Come on now. Exactly. You don't even know if he threw his shoes away or not. I just told you, many people do not throw away their shoes. They keep them. Vans cost money. He probably threw them in the washing machine or wiped them off with a wet cloth. Well, William, obviously they have DNA possibly at the scene. You don't know if he wore gloves or not. I don't know. You must think some of us are dodo birds in the chat. I'm not. I'm 52 years of age. I'll be 52 at the end of this month. So I don't know who you're talking to. Yeah, he didn't throw those shoes away. Yeah, he hid the knife. Okay. I didn't hear anything about him wearing gloves. They mentioned what in the affidavit? They mentioned what in the affidavit? I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, let's see. He pulled the knife out the sheath to use it. I thought that would be common sense. He carried it in the case into the house, and then he pulled the knife out the case, threw the case on the bed with the victims. It's kind of self-explanatory. That leads you to believe they were the first victims killed. Wow. No, I don't need nobody taking no link. I don't go live to argue about DNA evidence. If the lab tested the blood, fecal matter, semen, saliva, sweat, fingerprint, and puts him at the scene, why would I want to argue that? For what reason? I don't have any reason to argue that. Because I'm not in supporting a killer. Only person that's going to argue about DNA is somebody that supports the killer. You would want them to have some form of DNA to put him at the crime scene. You can't explain your fingerprint on a knife sheath and you don't know the victims, and the victims were killed with a knife, and whether the knife was found or not is common sense. They both went together, the knife and the sheath. So what fool's going to sit there as a jury panel and say, well, I need the knife? Then if you say you need the knife, then you're going to say you need a fucking picture of him killing the kids. Come on, you guys. That bullshit. I'm sure Ellie has much more evidence. This affidavit was only for probable cause for a judge to sign an arrest warrant. Yes, Annie. Exactly. Hour and 22 minutes into this live stream, the link has been dropped for you to hit the link to give your opinion pertaining to the affidavit and the information. A roommate was spared. She speaks in this affidavit that she saw the perpetrator walk by her standing in the doorway of the second floor apartment room. Why did he spare the roommate? Why did he go back to the scene of the crime at 9:30 a.m.? Was he going back to glorify this moment? Was he going back to attempt to go back in the house to get the sheath or any other evidence he left behind? Or was he too scared to go in and said, I'll leave it alone because it's broad daylight. Somebody might have a doorbell camera to see me. His nose was broke. Yes, thank you, Dolly, for saying that. I told Brittany that too the other day. His nose looks broken to me. If you look at his close-up pictures, his nose is crooked. Well, I'm not going to say he got his nose broken trying to commit these type of crimes, but he could have gotten it broken as a child, could have gotten in a fight at school. He was bullied as a kid, could have got his nose broken in an altercation in school. But I would like to know also, was he under the influence of narcotics when he went to the scene? Hit the link. The link is in the chat. 204 people viewing. Make the live count. The live stream is not for you to just chat in the chat. There's a link for the live stream. It keeps the continuity flowing. I don't want to sit up here and talk for 2 hours, 3 hours. Yes, kickboxing. Exactly. His nose could have got broken any kind of way. But his nose is distinctive. And when you see the side profile of the person standing in the gymnasium, it does resemble him. Hopefully, maybe somebody can bring forward a better picture of the person in the gymnasium at the memorial. And I understand Mr. Gonzalez's point about not wanting to have an open memorial for the kids if the killer could possibly show up. If we'd have believed that's him at that school memorial, he definitely would have went to the memorial of Kaylee, Maddie, or whomever if he had not been arrested. Well, it may have been like that. The point we're saying is the nose looks broken from a frontal view. They have him in the area of Universal. That's all that matters. Read the affidavit. It'll explain to you about the car. Just like everybody worried me to death about reading the affidavit. Well, I read so many pages. It will explain it in the affidavit about the car pings, all of that. Well, if the cell phone ping towers in that area at the time of the memorial, then he probably was there. Exactly, Czar. Great point. And that's the whole point of this case. There is more evidence gathered in this investigation. Naturally, they were not going to lay out everything they had yesterday in court. That's common sense. So what you should be concerned about is what they didn't tell you in the affidavit. Naturally, there's more information gathered by State Police Moscow and the FBI. All his Google searches, apps loaded, unloaded, deloaded, visits to Moscow, other jurisdictions, how much mileage he's burned since touching down Washington soil, people he met, conversations. There's an abundance of things they've possibly gathered since the moment he moved to Washington State. That's why it's called an investigation. And you do not know what he left behind at the scene of the crime. You do not know if he touched something, sweated, wiped his forehead, took off a glove, wore a glove, sat down. You don't know because you weren't there. Exactly. The DNA don't lie. And we have modern technology, and people want the DNA. It's probably only a few cases where people left DNA and the jury found them not guilty. But most jury members want DNA. They want your semen, fecal matter, urine at the scene to explain why would it be there if you didn't know the victims. Yes, I do believe he moved to Washington on purpose. He exited out of the glass door. It's in the affidavit. Maybe you need to read the affidavit. I don't know how to explain it to you. The witness says he walked out of the exit sliding door, if you are to believe her rendition. I don't know Still Waters. I don't even know anything about that commentary. Exactly. You don't know what he did while he was in the house. You don't know if he made a bowel movement. You don't know if he urinated in the toilet bowl. You don't know if he urinated on the girls. You don't know if he urinated in the room, if he jacked off in the room. I do not mean to be derogatory, but people have done this at crime scenes. Why you think they were still going back in there? Because you don't know what they found while they were moving stuff out of the apartment, moving stuff out of the room. He could have urinated on their clothes. He could have ejaculated on their clothes. Stay woke. Because he did not sexually penetrate them does not mean he didn't take out his penis and rub it against one of the girls' mouth, vagina. You don't know. That's been mentioned also. Just because he didn't touch them by vagina to penis does not mean he did not pull out his private parts in the room. He could have got sexually aroused after killing them. You're not a sadist, so you don't know how a sadist thinks. You don't follow true crime royally. You don't know what people do in a room with the victim. If they will sleep with a corpse, what makes you think they wouldn't pull out their penis after they're dead? You don't know if he took pictures of the victims. Bingo card. I make you think when you come to this network. I'm not your average YouTuber. And I stand on what I say. And I speak from what I've learned because I'm an avid reader and an avid listener. And that's the one thing most people don't do with true crime. They don't listen. They will tell you when you go into a crime scene, you let the room speak to you. You listen to the room. You listen to the victims. Although they are dead, they are speaking to you when you walk in the room. You survey the room. Curtains open, curtains closed, blinds open. What's up, what's down? Then you ask people about the room that know the victim. Would they normally leave this open or closed? Are they normally messy or clean? OCD. Do they shower at night in the morning? Do they close the shower curtain? Do they keep it pulled back? Do they put their shoes under the bed or in the closet? Stay woke. That's why they did a 360 of the room. Because that way they can go to an eyewitness and make the eyewitness look at the room and say, what is wrong in this picture? What is right in this picture? Should this be here or should this be there? Should this not be there? Exactly. And the smells. Exactly. And I told people that in the live yesterday. When he walked past her, he had to have had a body odor, sweating from killing 4 people. Also, when you kill people, blood smells. For those that did not know that, I gave a testimony last night after going to my cousin's house after he had killed himself. The room permeated of metal. And that's what blood smells like. Metal. He killed himself in the upstairs bedroom, but yet you could smell the blood downstairs in the living room. So he killed 4 people. The house should have smelled like metal. Stay woke. So what did she see the morning she opened the door? She should have seen a trail of blood going up the stairs, going to Xana's room, and out of the entry, 2nd floor slider. You are currently listening to The Vault. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $sign Began 129 Cash App. All stickers and chat are welcome. The live stream. I want to thank my kind donators. Thank you, Miss Linda. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Heidi. This is a serious case coming out of Idaho. And the sad part of the story is not just that these children were bludgeoned to death for no reason. The perpetrator is playing mind games in court by not even pleading guilty, knowing he's killed these kids. And there also will be another BK. And just as quick as this story starts to die down, there will be another hot story pertaining to a murdered person, a missing person. Because this is what sick people do. They infiltrate and perpetrate. And there will be another college kid murdered, missing, sadly. So this is why I tell you during my live streams why you have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to take care of business. You cannot be friends with everybody. You can't talk to everybody. You can't post stuff to social media. Every time you wake up, you're posting a bowl of cereal. You're posting a bowl of lasagna. You're telling people where you're going for the weekend. You don't lock your doors. You don't lock your windows. You leave your door unlocked. You're letting all type of people come in and out of your fucking house. You're giving out keys and passcodes. You cannot do this, or you will be an Idaho for yourself. You have to be careful what you tell people at your job, in public. Giving out your phone number, cell phone number. People coming to work at your house, on your house, inside of your house. Stop telling stuff. And we as single people need to quit telling people we are alone and live alone all the time, because you may say that to the wrong person. And when people know that nobody's coming to your house, you are a moving target. Little do you know. And now you see this house was filled with people and they were moving targets. What made BK feel comfortable enough to choose these victims? Was it happenstance or deliberately planned? If planned, how long was he planning? Where did he find the victims? Did he follow them outside of 1122 King Road? Did he find them while living in Pennsylvania? Checkmate. This will be even more disturbing that he found these kids online before he even moved and applied to Washington State. What will the evidence reveal in the cell phone data and devices belonging to Kohberger? When he went back to the scene of the crime at 9:30 a.m. November 13th, how long did he stay at the scene of the crime that morning when he returned? Did he pull in the driveway? Did he park up the street, up at the hill? At the back? Did he get out, walk, look, stare through the trees? What did he do? Has he told somebody of his murders? Did he have a co-conspirator to help him? Did he infiltrate any of the girls to use them to get close to the other girls? Stay woke. What do you mean when she moved in with Maddie? See, we don't even know. I have no idea who moved in that house first. I don't have any information to that. You don't know that they came into his atmosphere. You do not know that. No one has revealed how he came to know the victims. That was not in the affidavit, nor was a motive. My point is, you do not know Kohberger. You do not know what he was watching. You do not know how long he has been watching these kids. You don't know if he watched them one day, if he watched them 5 days. As I told you all before, you've got to prove how long he's known of the victims, how he came to know the victims. If he met them, passed them. If he went deliberately to Moscow to hunt prey. You have to ask. Seek and ye shall find. So we will wait to see what the police will reveal. 9 times out of 10, this will only come out during trial, how he came to choose the victims. But nonetheless, he was a threat free, because you heard students from Washington State say they didn't even lock their apartment doors in the apartment where he lived. So he was a threat, and he chose Moscow for a reason. He did not want to hunt where he slept. And that's an old saying. You don't shit where you eat. Could be Toy. I don't know. Hold on, Annie. I heard the ping. I was watching you all's comments down there. Thank you, hon. All right, everybody. Thank you. You're welcome, Annie. Thank you, Annie, Heidi, Christina, Linda, Shavonda. Thank you for the donations. Thank you, Annie. I appreciate that. I believe he couldn't get a beautiful girl today and affected his manly ability. Possibly. See, you have to ask all those questions. When was the last time he was in a relationship? When was the last time he dated a girl or a woman or a man? Is he bisexual, homosexual? Does he hate women? Is he an incel? Did his mother mistreat him growing up? Do we have issues with women? Because a man that kills a woman and kills more than one woman, he has identity issues. He has issues with his mother. You don't start killing women and not have some type of baggage pertaining to women in general. And usually that starts with your mother and the provider who raised you, an aunt, a grandmother, whomever. So possibly he has a problem with his own mother. Although you heard his mother was sobbing in court, that has nothing to do with the general relationship Kohberger has with his mother and parents. It has been said that his father is difficult. Somebody also said something about bankruptcy several times. So you don't know the dynamics of his relationship with his family members, how he was treated by his family. We know that he was bullied. He was overweight as a child. We also heard that he got high in high school off of heroin. You don't know Bryan Kohberger. Just like you don't know those kids. That's why I never accused anyone of killing them, because I did not know them to say who could have killed them. Now people should feel very foolish. A random stranger killed the kids that didn't have a dog in the race, didn't know them, didn't hang with them. Because these kids are outgoing. He's not. So 9 times out of 10, he may not even been their speed. And one, he's too old for them. He's almost 30 years old. He wouldn't have been hanging with fucking kids. The kids. Hello, Brittany. Hit the link, Brittany. But he did, darling. So that's another thing. Please watch my last 2 lives. We chop all this information up. You got 6 to 7 hours worth the Queen's time chopping up the mind of BK and why he entered that house. Why would you enter the house on this fateful day, which was a weekend when there were festivities going on and the kids did not have a party? Were the kids warned by the management to stop partying and making noise? You see, on September 1st, they were visited by the police 2 times for noise infractions. Were they warned to stop having parties? How would he know they would be home on November 12th, 13th? Why did he choose 4 a.m. to enter this house? The kids had men and women entering their house. Why did he choose these people, this house, that day? I ask all the questions. Because that is the only way you're going to get in the mind of a killer and understand his motivations. And you may never find out why he killed the kids, because BK is never going to admit why he killed those kids. It will be years before he owns ownership for the murders of the 4. He will only tell you the truth after he's exhausted all measures of appeals through the court system. Until then, he's going to weigh this out, because this is the glory moment he's been waiting for, which is validation, attention from the general public. He has never been important. He has never thought of himself as important. He has never cared much about himself. He was possibly doused with gasoline from family members, parents, and the outside public. He probably never felt loved by his parents. He's never had love from a woman. This is his crowning moment. The murders of the Idaho 4. And had he not been caught, had there been no surveillance of the white car, he would be free and he would kill again. Jealousy czar. Jealous of kids who were living their best life, having fun. The life he never had. The life he chose not to have. Everything's a choice, as people love to say. He chose to be miserable. He chose to be this nerd, awkward person. He chose his fate. He could have easily sought a counselor for any type of problems he had. He could have learned how to mingle with people. It was his choice to be who he was and who he became. He didn't have to kill those kids. Anybody could have blended in. That's why I gave you the tour of the house and sent you pictures on my community board to show you. You had a bullseye view from the corner to the back of their porch. You could stand at the corner and see their porch from the corner street. They were moving targets to anybody. Just like you could be a target for somebody. So long as somebody wants to invest in watching you, you can be a target. People are watched every day, don't even know it. That is the very reason why people are accosted, is because they don't pay attention. You have to pay attention to cars going up and down the street. You went around the corner and the same car has followed you. You look up, you're in the shopping center, the same car's in the parking lot. You have to be aware of your surroundings. That's why it's best to sometimes just stand in your own window and look out. Watch the neighborhood. Watch the cars coming and going. Watch the neighbors. I'm not saying for you to stop them, but you do need to be aware of your surroundings. You need to be aware of anybody that asks personal questions. You need to be aware of people coming to you saying somebody was asking questions about you. You need to be aware. So I'm asking you, what made him choose these kids? What made him choose November 13th to kill these kids? Because in the end, he does not even live in the state of Idaho. He lives 15 minutes away. How did he know they would even be home? How did he even know he was going to be able to get in the house? Did he take break-in tools with him? Queen woke. Because if I don't know you and I've never been to your house, how do I know I can gain entry into your house? Was he willing to break into the home? That would show he was adamant about going into this house, besides carrying the knife, besides riding around in circles. As you heard Mr. Dan Abrams say, he's showing intent and deliberate, the guy from Law and Crime, that he was intentionally going to kill these kids, because why are you riding around the neighborhood back and forth, up and down the street, turning around in the road? That shows deliberation. So did he carry break-in tools with him? Or is it worse than what has been said? That somebody gave him information about the house, perhaps, and the inhabitants of the house. Did he befriend somebody that's friend of a friend of a friend of the people, and they told him about the house and how they navigate at the house, that they leave the slider unlocked? So the kids were a target regardless of Bryan Kohberger. Please pay attention to what I'm saying to you. There was no signs of a break-in. But you have to ask yourself the obvious questions. As far as Kaylee, there were rumors she was leaving out, but yet her dog was in her room, so that leads me to believe she had not moved out. Because if her room was empty, why would she put her dog in an empty room? Stay woke. That's why you have to pay attention to the details in the affidavit, because they tell the story. He did not live there, so how would he know they would be home? Number two, Kaylee bought another car, and if she was not living there, then why kill them if she was the target? That means you would have known she wasn't staying there. But I believe she was staying there. I will stand corrected, because the dog was found in her room. Why would she put the dog in her room if she wasn't living there? She would have the dog in the room with she and Maddie. Say what? Her DoorDash was from closed at 2 a.m. I don't know anything about it. It's been confirmed of DoorDash at 4 a.m. It's in the affidavit. If you have any problems with the information pertaining to this live stream, I advise you to go to the affidavit as people instructed me to do so. That is where your answers lie. Not Facebook, not YouTube rumors and gossip. Go read the affidavit yourself. Well, Killer B, if I'm visiting, why would I put my dog in my old room? That makes no sense. If we're to believe she put the dog there, and I don't see him fooling with a dog to put a dog up, that wouldn't be his intention. But if he did put the dog in there, maybe that's why the dog was barking. You got to make it all make sense. So why was the dog in the room if she was leaving? Why would the dog not be in the room that she's sleeping in? So see, that's why you know there's too many rumors. First, they said she lived there. Then they said she moved out. Now you're saying the boxes were packed. Well, which is it? Because you don't hear that in the affidavit that the room was packed up. He just says, I opened the door, there was a dog in there. I don't know how she got a 4 a.m. You have to ask the people of Moscow who have businesses open. Because I've never heard of any restaurants being open that time of morning. Only places I can see open that time of morning are places that are in major cities. So I don't know who's open at 4 a.m. in the morning. He got in because somebody left a door or window unlocked, obviously. I already know she's graduating. You all are trying to school the queen on he said, she said. Until I get it confirmed by the police, I'm not believing anything. That's just who I am. Because so far, there's a lot of stuff that's been mentioned about these kids that has not been corroborated by the police. And you all swore up and down there was a basement, but it wasn't. You swore up and down the 2 kids lived on the bottom. Now we know that one was not on the bottom. So I'm not standing on anything pertaining to Kaylee Gonzalez and her moving, leaving. Bring a receipt. Because that makes no sense to leave your dog in an empty room and you're visiting somebody in another room. And the dog isn't a vicious type of dog. So obviously the dog was living in the house before with all of them. I wouldn't see Maddie really caring about the dog being in her room. Well, what you have to ask yourself is what door did she go to get the food? Almost 2 hours. I'm glad everybody knows what's inside of the house. I'm not making any claims about what was inside of the house. That was the mistake of listening to people talk about who was living on the first floor. We now know that one of the roommates was not living on the first floor. She was on the second. And that's the point of being in a house and apartment. You don't know the people. You don't know if people were switching rooms out, inviting other people to spend the night, if other people were coming in to move in. You don't know. You're going by what other people are saying. And frankly, I'm not banking on other people's gossip pertaining to that house. I want a receipt. I don't want to hear any more about dogs and cats and who was in whose room, and because that's why there's so much gossip pertaining to this story. Like all these true crime stories, you're listening to other people without a receipt. You didn't even know that one girl was on the second floor all this time. Because you don't know these kids. You don't know what they had going on in that house. And I'm not banking on anything. I'd rather hear it from the police. BK may have been watching the house at the time, so he had to have known someone was up if he saw her get the food, especially if they're eating. He saw lights on in the house. Yes, sir. So that means he was willing to kill the people with lights on. Because I got a feeling most of the people in the house were up, except for possibly Bethany. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait to see what they say in court. All the photos we saw the kids in masks at parties there. Maybe that was a regular thing. I don't know. I know somebody saw the killer and they shut their door, and allegedly they didn't make a report until near noon. Why did he spare DM if he saw her standing in the doorway? He's killed 4 people. Obviously, he was coming from Xana's room when he passed her door and she's standing there. You want me to believe he just let her live after killing Ethan and Xana if we're to believe they were the last ones murdered? Make me understand why he let this girl live and she's an eyewitness. I don't understand what you're saying, Titanium. There's no way she could have went to sleep. If she did, one might think she's heartless. You're entitled to your interpretation of the affidavit. I just bring you the information, and I bring you my commentary pertaining to the information. But there's something off with this person opening and closing doors and making a report at noon. Let's just say, what? Maybe he didn't see her or hear her, but he did have to walk by her door a lot. Hard to believe. Let's say he didn't, though. Still wondering why she didn't contact. Well, Britt, the girl said he had to seen her. You can't say I stood in the doorway. Standing in the doorway means the door is open. She didn't say I peeped out the door. I peeped out the crack. I peeped out a peephole. She said I stood in the doorway. He walked past me. First it said I walked towards me. So you can't walk past and towards me. So something isn't right with that statement. You either walk past me or you walk towards me. You can't do both. You looked at me and walked towards me and then past me. How? Just make me understand how it's possible. Walking towards me means you were coming from the glass slider. Passing me means you came by to the left of me or the right of me. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if you came towards me, you can only come towards me if you're in front of me. So how are you leaving if you're walking towards me? That's why I'm saying, Zarp, she probably didn't go to sleep. Probably too fearful. So what you have to ask yourself is if the information in the affidavit is factual. That's the point of the story. Is the information given to authorities the truth? Because that is where this problem lies with towards me, past me, saw his eyebrows, he walked toward the glass slider. That's hard for anybody to believe that a perpetrator deliberately went to a house, possibly planned this murder, don't know if he was stalking the victims, and walked past you in a doorway and let you live. Make us understand why he would do that. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You would say he came down the stairs. He came from around the corner from Xander's room and passed me. He can't come towards you and pass you. Exactly. In the dark, saw your eyebrows, so she was looking him in the eye. So exactly. If you're walking towards me, then we should both have eye contact together. So that's why I said, was the killer inebriated and under the influence of narcotics? And he gave her a pass. Yes, I know it's redacted. And that's what's redacted is when she got up and gave the police report. That's redacted. Walking towards me makes me feel she told her witness him going upstairs. She didn't say he was walking down the stairs. Well, the point is, if you're reading it correctly, towards me and then he went to the glass door. You can't go towards me and go toward the door at the same time. I don't know how that's possible. I'm not getting ready to say anything's factual in the affidavit. The affidavit is people's words of their version. The footage of cars may be factual because that's a surveillance camera. But an eyewitness account, I'm not saying it's factual. I don't stand on that. Because in the end, that's somebody's versions of what they said they saw and heard in the house. If you're not there, you can't say what somebody saw and what they heard. Because now you want me to believe you lived on the second floor of this house. You opened a door 3 times. You never yelled out to any of the people in the house. And on the 3rd time opening the door, the killer walked by you and he spared your life. And you shut your door and didn't wake up until before noon, found somebody dead, allegedly, and reported to the police. That's a version. So how do I know what she saw and didn't see? How do I know she didn't get up out of her bed, waited a while when she thought the coast was clear, walked around, saw the blood, saw the kids dead, and went back to her bedroom? Many would be shocked to find out she knew all along the kids were dead. She just didn't report it. She reported when she got ready to. And we know it has happened because many people have watched people die and didn't report it, didn't tell that they were at the scene of the crime when the murder happened, didn't tell they were eyewitness, co-conspirator, helped out, knew that they were going to be killed, set it up for them to be killed. She will not be the first to lie about what the fuck happened in that house. And I'm not saying she's involved. All I'm saying is on the 3rd time watching the killer walk by, her instinct should have kicked in. If he's coming from Xander's room, that's where I heard the crying come from, allegedly. So why not assume this don't look right? I think I'm going to call 911 and let somebody come in this house, and I'll let them go in the rooms and see who was crying and who wasn't. Yes, Maybe DM's seen a lot more than they're telling us. Exactly. In the dark, you have to be real close to the killer to see the eyebrows. That's why I said what I said. How are you walking towards me, but then you're walking towards the glass door? That means your back would be to me. Her bedroom light was on. Exactly. That's why I asked, was her light on or off while opening the door the 3 times? Was the light on in the kitchen? Was the light on in the stairwell going up to the 3rd floor? Did the girls upstairs have their light on in the bedroom, Maddie? Did Xana and Ethan have their light on in their room? Was the light on in the living room? Light shining from a bathroom on the 2nd level. You have to ask all those questions. He saw her then. Exactly, Cindy. Thank you, Constance. That's the purpose of this live stream. At the early part of this live stream, I brought you information pertaining to Buffalo Bills athlete who was injured. Mr. Hamlin, prayers for him. He is now awake, talking to his family. God is good, favored him. I believe the tube has been removed. So we will pray for his recovery. Also brought you an update pertaining to Quentin Simon. His remains are still in the custody of the FBI. Once they are done with the remains, I assume they will return his remains to a relative, possibly Billy Joe Howe. They're still working on the forensics of his remains. The second part of this live stream is pertaining to Bryan Kohberger, who has been arrested for 4 murders and a felony burglary charge of the Idaho 4. I'm asking you, why did he leave? Why did he return to the crime scene at 9:30 a.m.? And why did he spare a roommate by the initials DM? And also, was he under the influence of narcotics when he went to the house to murder the 4 kids? Because this window took place about 20 minutes. So it was not a long-winded crime. Where did he park his car? In the driveway, up the street, up the hill, on Walenta? How did he come to know the victims? How did he choose the victims? Did he inquire about the victims? Did he move to Washington State deliberately to kill people? Was he trying to make a name for himself in Washington State as a serial killer? Why did he choose Moscow, Idaho as his hunting ground? What knowledge did he have of the victims? When did he plan this crime? Did he plan this crime? How long did he lie in wait? Did he lie in wait? What made him go there November 13th, 4 a.m.? He left his house at about 2:47, 2:37. So what was he doing for about an hour in Moscow? This is why I'm trying to tell you, you got to stay woke. It's in the affidavit. He did not immediately go in and kill the kids. I'm going to tell you something that Brittany told me this morning, why she believes he did not immediately go into the house to kill the kids. Remember the kids that were cited near the frat house for drinking underage? She said he hasn't seen the police and he got scared. Bingo card. So he went somewhere and parked and waited till the coast was clear, and then he made his move at 1122 King Road. Listen very carefully. It only takes 15 minutes to get to Moscow from Pullman, Washington. He would have made it to Moscow a little after 3 a.m. Why did it take him damn near an hour and a half to enter the house at 1122 King Road? Is it because he saw the police in the area talking to the students that you now have seen on body cam footage? He got spooked, parked somewhere, and waited till the coast was clear. And yes, in the area 12 times. So was he hunting prey, trying to find somebody's house to stalk? already had kids in mind, which is 1122 King Road, its inhabitants, happenstance, deliberate, and planned. Because if he was in the area 12 times, you may be talking about somebody who was just out scouring, looking for prey. And he had no knowledge of the Idaho 4. No one in the house was a target. He just picked somebody randomly. Could it be random targets? Happenstance. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Beganji129 Cash App. Thank you for all the stickers and chats and donations. Happy weekend, happy New Year. Please check my community board for the latest updates from News Nation, Law and Crime Network. Anything not revealed during this live stream is posted to my community board. If you need verification for the information repeated in this live stream, please check out the affidavit pertaining to the 19 pages released to the general public. And know that anything you hear pertaining to a story is just a version. And if it cannot be corroborated, it may not be the truth or the whole truth. You're entitled to your interpretation of the information if you believe what you're hearing is the truth or not. And know that everything will not be revealed unless the person wants it to be told or it can be validated. Thank you for your time. You've been listening to The Vault.